or preparing to go live. It's been a while.
Yes. Well, 3 weeks ish. Yeah.
It feels like much longer.
It
Maybe
does, right? But there's been a lot going on, long weekends for me anyway.
Well, there has. And that you've done something very dangerous.
Which process? I've done a bunch of dangerous things. Not actually really dangerous.
No, but it's facetiously dangerous. I read the second Dresden Files in very quick time, and I didn't realize how quickly I finished it. It was like less than a week.
Yep.
And what just happened?
Yes.
How did that happen? I just
did that with 2 books of the Expanse back to back. I was reading really late.
What just happened? And I thought, okay, it's really like it wasn't obvious what was happening. It was well plotted.
Yes.
And this is full moon.
Yeah.
Whether it's werewolves and whatever, there's some really funny bits in it, right? But also, he's written it in such a way where he's dropping in things about his past, his future.
Yeah, you can see some foreshadowing, and you're like, "Ooh, foreshadowing." I don't know what are the words, but this is a nugget. There's something there.
I want to know about his mum. I want to know about his family. I want to know about like what. So I was like, and how many of these books are there?
17, 18. 18.
So I bought the third straight
published
away,
and it's not finished. You got the third one?
Yeah, I've started reading it.
Awesome. What is it called again?
Grave
Peril.
Grave Peril. Yes, and
I think this one's amazing.
His godmother.
What? His godmother. Yes, his godmother is interesting.
Okay. And I told Davina, yeah, I'm reading a book about a wizard called Harry, not Harry Potter.
That's right. Yes.
It's so good. It's so really good. It's so. I almost wish it was real. I like to think it's real. It's like, oh yes, I'll just rip a hole in now and go to Never Never, and there's like ghosts and stuff. Oh my god, what have you done?
And if you bought the third, you're screwed because
I know.
I remember that I read the first 2 in close succession, and then for whatever reason I kind of moved on to something else. I was like, oh, this is pleasant. And then later, a few years later, when we were started playing the role-playing game of the Dresden Files, I got back into reading.
There's a role-playing game.
There's a role-playing game.
Oh no.
Of course.
Oh god.
Yeah. Then I got onto the third one, and then I couldn't stop. I just only did quick breaks, but overall I was just like eating one after the other. It gets better and better.
Now the other thing is, on the covers he's wearing a hat.
Yeah.
It doesn't mention a hat in the book at all.
No,
that I remember.
Right. I don't think he does.
Like, I just had this cool image of this guy like with
given his rod. He does spend quite a lot of time describing how he's dressed and what he's got and his. So I don't know I think the hat is mostly creative license from the person doing the design of the cover.
And then I want to get a pentacle just because it's cool. It's just, oh my god! But it's so ripe for translation to a TV series that could be really well done. And you said there is a TV series, but it's terrible.
It's a shame, but it's terrible. They did one season and got cancelled. It's a shame
because that material is perfect. It's like you wouldn't even have to script it very much. You just take it straight from the book. It's just,
well, you can see that it's been written with that. It's very visual. It's been written for that kind of stuff in mind, for sure.
So good.
I think they just adapted it with not a lot of budget as well on sci-fi, and it's just, I only watched one episode, to be honest, but I was like, meh, whatever. I was told it was okay, but it's not great.
It's a real shame.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really good. And speaking of things I've watched, so okay, multiverse, right? We took my nephews.
Are you talking about Spider-Man and Across the Spider-Verse?
Yeah. Okay. Or I don't even know what it's called, but like, so we took my nephews, one's 13 and one's 9, and it was a teenage audience.
Awesome.
And it was like I was a teenager again, but I wasn't expecting, like, there were cheering, there was clapping, there was like, I'm not going to spoil it, but the audience reaction and my own reaction was
Yeah, there was clapping at the end of the movie when I went to see it, and it was mostly an adult audience. And when I realized my brother was talking about going to see it with my nieces, and realized they hadn't seen the first one, so I got them to watch the first one.
Yeah, I watched the first one, but I can't. There was obviously a few key bits I couldn't remember from the first one.
Yeah, me neither. But because it was already 4 years ago. But the music was great. I remember the animation, and that all of that still works in the second one. It works really well.
And I think the other big thing for me is the ethnicity and the culture and the whole thing. It's done really, really well. Yeah, really well. And even the family and the relationships and the uncle and the whole thing is done. The school, he's got that teenageriness of Peter Parker.
Yeah,
but he's got this
and I really
massive
love
expanded multiverse vibe, which is so
the whole, which I think is, well, it's sort of, but not really a spoiler because we can talk technically about it. The whole conversation, which is an important theme of the plot, of canon, I guess canonicity. What is canon in a traditional story, and in this case, in the story of Spider-Man, of course, which is, you can see that in the trailer. It's not going to be massively surprising, but it's fun, and you could pull it apart. I'm sure there's holes in the whole theory, but still, it's super interesting to play along with and to make fun of, and it's like very meta to make fun of, like, what is canon and what is following the right kind of recipe for anything, for the right kind of story. It was fun. Now completely not clear, and you can pull it apart, but then we would be a lot more spoiling the movie a lot more. But what makes something canon in a story or not? And I think there must be, I'm riffing, I don't really know if it's true, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is also picked from a lot of conversations of fans over the years of comic books, because there's so many different continuities of comic books that I don't really know that much about. But I know that there's a lot of fans that, discuss, argue, debate what is or isn't right within all the different timelines of all the different, well, in this case, Marvel heroes, of what's. But from what was in the first place, as far as I think, or might be wrong, but they're mostly publishing and commercial decisions. I think, because like they call them runs, and the run is like the run of a certain given time of an author on a series, and then they cross over. So the run is then the plot of the characters and the stories match with, well, who's in charge of it at this particular point, and how we're going to make things happen and cross over in order to sell more copies. Because it's an industry. Now, it's changed because of the movie format and all that jazz. But levels, because it's like it's Spider-Man and everything else is an ongoing over and over and over again story, and so that's what's very
as a literary device. The idea of the Spider-Verse is very clever. It does open up a lot of different ideas and possibilities, and I'm pretty sure the guys who wrote it were also behind the Lego movie as well. So I recognize the names. So they're Phil Lord and Chris Miller or something like that.
Okay.
So I think they're clearly like some good with comics and good with, like, it was.
I really enjoyed it. And I really thought
very high rewatchability. Yeah, very high.
It renewed my interest and fun in superhero movies. So I was getting, like, I'm still a customer. I still go see Marvel Cinema Universe movies, even though I feel the last few were not very good.
Yeah, definitely.
But I've seen so many of that, I'm like, all right, well, canon and story and plots, like, just repetitive, more or less. But this, even though it does repeat, it's the same thing as all the other ones. I thought the music, the animation style, and the fact that it makes fun of its own thing, makes it really refreshing while still having the same ingredients of the others, and really makes it a fun, blockbuster popcorn movie. And I wonder the Flash coming out next week, whether that's going to have the same kind of thing going on, or if it's.
That's the trailer. It looks a bit tricksy, trying to want to be clever with timelines and all that kind of stuff.
And plus, I know that. Well, yes, clearly, because that's their DC's Flash is the same as the Spider-Man as having multiple universes.
Is he also a kid?
Timelines. No,
the Flash can access different timelines.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I thought his superpowers he could just like be really fast.
Yeah, but he goes so fast that he goes into like some kind of dimension and accesses all sorts of other parallel dimensions.
Okay.
It doesn't really make any more sense than there's a Spider-Man that there's accesses the Spider-Verse. You're like, why? Oh, because it's a web of universes. Okay, that sounds tenuous, but fine.
I think the other thing about these, the other thing I like about Spider-Man in general is it does feel very like he's dealing with his own stuff as a teenager.
Yeah.
And I think that's another reason it appeals to me. I feel Miles Morales in this is very much dealing with, they've put it like as a big part. I know it's a big part of who Peter Parker is. Like Peter Parker, it's Miles Morales, MM. But this feels different the way they're dealing with it. I don't know. Maybe I should
clearly they're really Toby putting Maguire. The teenage thing at the heart of it, and
I really
in a good way.
Liked it.
I like that a lot too. Yeah, and the Flash, I know they reshot, they did a lot of stuff to it. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what it does. I'm probably going to go see it.
I don't know if I will. I haven't seen Shazam. I didn't go see.
Shazam was all right. I saw it.
I haven't seen the second one. I haven't seen any of the Batman versus Superman stuff at all.
Oh, that's not very good. But that follows the same kind of timeline. And the Flash is supposed to somehow reboot the whole DC universe for the next movies that are restarting over again.
I was at a party at a friend's birthday recently, or a friend of a friend's birthday, and there was a guy there super into comics.
Mm-hmm.
Like he described himself as a comic book nerd. And he said that he prefers DC over Marvel.
Yeah.
And he thought Shazam 2 is okay.
Yeah, it was okay.
He also said something.
He prefers DC over Marvel when it comes to comic books.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I think from a connoisseur's perspective, it depends. Yeah, some people,
I've heard that before.
Marvel fans, I've heard that before. But usually in the same kind of following breath, people are like, but they messed up their movie things.
Yeah. Now he said that because there's 2 Suicide Squads or something or other. Yeah. I haven't seen either of them either. He said the James Gunn Suicide Squad is really good and worth watching. You said it was a good popcorn movie. It was like, yeah, all right, it was good, but
yeah, but it was just, I was like, all right, well, I've seen all this stuff 10,000 times before. It's like mash the Guardians of the Galaxy with tricksy humor, tableaus. Yeah, I remember saying that it felt like a lot of cheap little skits together mashed. Okay. It's worth watching.
Have you seen Guardians 3?
Yeah.
What did you think?
I mean, I liked it only insofar, and I went to see it because at that point you like the characters and want to see them again.
Yeah.
It still does a very good job of choosing the right music to go with really impressive tableau scenes.
Yes.
That works really well.
That worked for me. That was a big thing for me.
He works a lot on colors in this particular case alongside, so it's very visual along with the music and like that. Plot wise, it's pretty kind of sad. But so I mean, you explore the backstory of Rocket, which is cool because you like Rocket. I like Rocket. Is it great? It's okay. It's funny because I think I told you, I can't remember, I might have said or not, but I might repeat myself. But I sat down in the movie theater, it was pretty full, and I heard the group next to me say they had heard that this was the best Marvel movie in a while. And his friend replied, well, that wouldn't be saying much. But yes. And at the end, I agreed with the sentiment, and they said that too. I heard them. But yeah, it was the best Marvel movie in a while, but that's not saying much because the last several ones were really not very good.
Agree.
So it's the best of a mediocre bunch.
Agree. It was more emotional,
and so
than I
it
expected.
closes off the Guardians in a way that works at the end.
Yeah,
but for there's also like not that much development of character.
well, development of
there
one
is for
character.
Rocket, but you go and explore who he is, so that works. I don't know. It works. It's the best of a mediocre bunch of the last 5-6 Marvel movies.
I think that's well said. I think it's very well said. I think that, but it was more emotional than I expected. But that might have been because I'm such a fan of the music. The opening scene.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I'm very
really
attached to the characters. The music really is great, and the tableaus and scenes that go with it are really well done. So, if you like the Guardians, you should see it. It completes the trilogy, but it completes it in a way that you're like, all right, well, done. Okay. A little bit. I'm exaggerating, perhaps.
I know what you mean.
Rough, but
no, I think you make a good point, and I don't know. Yeah, Marvel, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But stories will never go away.
No, for sure.
Just that's the thing. So I mentioned before,
I know that the Sony studios are really giving Marvel studios a run for their money with the Spider-Verse movies.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
More so than the other movies they're trying to do in the rest of the Spider-Man universe that I haven't seen the last one with like Venom is not that great at all.
Well, that was Sony.
That's Sony. That's what I'm talking about.
I didn't see the second Venom.
I saw it. It's not great. And then there was the one with Vampire Morbius. Apparently, it's terrible that I've not seen.
I haven't seen it either.
It's supposed to be really, really terrible. I've not seen it. But with the Spider-Verse, they've halted a lot of the production on Marvel movies, partly down to the writer's strike.
Oh,
partly down to reorganizing and looking at, we need to refocus what we're doing a little bit here.
There's a lot.
Seems like.
How many films are there?
There's more. The Marvels are coming out in a couple of months that they've been working on that for a while.
So I haven't watched all the TV series.
I kind of stopped watching. Well, there's not many come out anymore. I've watched most of them. I stopped with a She-Hulk because that was really terrible.
Didn't watch She-Hulk. Didn't see. Is it Miss Marvel?
Miss Marvel. I watched. It was all right.
I didn't finish. Character. Didn't finish Jessica Jones. Didn't watch Defenders. Didn't finish. I wanted to watch the Punisher.
That's the Netflix. That's the whole other previous universe.
Yeah, I
didn't watch the last seasons of those because they were getting canceled. But I heard that it was worth watching. But no way.
Well, Daredevil's on Disney Plus, and that was just absolutely superb.
Yeah, I haven't watched the third season. I heard it was really good.
Yeah, second season kind of meandered a little.
Yeah,
but third season is excellent. So good.
I think we've talked about that. I should watch it because I think they're making another season. They're renewing or rebooting.
Well, he appeared in the Spider-Man film.
Spider-Man, that was a big woo.
Yeah, it was. It was a big scene. Catch the brick, but I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go, and I don't know where. But okay, so this is the other thing about stories. So we both love stories. We started watching Succession. We've been watching it together, and
not you and
as in me and Davina. We're watching it, not you. Yeah.
No, I'm not watching it.
It's very good. It's very good, and it's stories, it's characters, it's everyone trying to deal with that. It's drama. It's done very, very well. Of it?
It's a rich family and they need to deal with a succession, or just they had a big company, or what's the general?
Yeah. So it's a super rich family, allegedly based around the Murdochs.
Okay.
Media empire, and the first episode opens with like the super patriarch, old guy. He's old. He's 80, so it's like, okay, how long does his son is being kind of set up to take over. That's the opening kind of premise.
And it is all a family, or also the execs of the company as well, or just the main characters are really around the family itself?
All family. It's all family based, and a lot of them work. Well, it's you start
and a lot of them work there somehow.
Some of them work there, some of them don't, but they've all come from money, and they've all just like. it's ridiculous. It's that world. But I still, like I said before, I think I don't know if I said it here. No, I said before we started recording, like I said, that is, for me, it's an exploration of family. Forget the money. Money is the context. Money and riches and business and all of that is the context. But fundamentally, it's mum, dad, kids, new mum, stepmom, extras, getting married, who's married to, like, it's that thing. It's the universal kind of story. There's a couple of scenes where it's set around a dinner. There's a few, like, and a lot of conversations, dinners, that kind of stuff. And when I was watching one of them, it reminded me of Dune. A very important scene in the book in Dune is the dinner when they first arrive on Dune, between the Duke and his wife, well, not his wife, his concubine, and like the son's there, and there's all these different people from all different groups represented. It felt like that. It's that kind of thing. And I was a bit disappointed they didn't have that scene in the latest film, because I think it's a really important scene for establishing all different groups that are vying for power. And that's really what it's about. It's who's vying for power, and they're not massively likable characters, but it's very watchable. It's done in a way that's almost like a what's it called? What's the cinema verite?
Okay.
Like The Office or Modern Family, not as extreme as Modern Family, but like The Office or The Thick of It.
Documentary, fly on the wall, listening in on conversations.
It's done. And interestingly, have you heard of Peep Show?
Yes, of course. Program? Yeah, I loved it. It's fantastic.
So it's the guy who came up with Peep Show and a couple of other English programs is the guy who created Succession. So it's do you ever watch The Thick of It or Veep?
Loved it. Yes.
I love The Thick of It, love Veep.
Yeah, me too.
So it's almost that kind of like shaky camera, zoom in, zoom out, like character, that is that kind of feel. So it's black comedy. It's black comedy drama, really.
Okay.
Car crash TV. You're watching, going, did he just say that? But I remember thinking that about The Thick of It and The Office and Veep. Veep's.
Yeah, I was talking about it with Katie. I need to watch. I've seen the first season of Veep, but then for some reason I stopped watching it back then.
It's interesting you said that. I'm exactly the same. I watched the first season and didn't watch the others, but the Thick of It is one of my favorite things.
I love The Thick of It.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So good. And I think there's a certain English sensibility that's required for that kind of TV program. And Succession is like that. It's an English guy who's behind it. So yeah, really very well done. And I kind of want to rewatch The Thick of It. Have you seen the film of it?
I'm not sure now, actually. Because I have all of them. I have all of the episodes, but I'm not sure I have the film.
The film is called, I can't remember what it's called. James Gandolfini's in it. It's a really good film, and it's the same thing, but it just unravels. It's
not called The Thick of It.
Horrible. It's not called The Thick of It. I can't remember what it's called.
Okay, I'll check.
But same characters, Malcolm Tucker, just unleashing. Malcolm Tucker's friend, or like not friend.
He doesn't have friends.
Colleague, another Scottish guy called Jamie. In the Loop, it's called In the Loop. And
right, yes.
Jamie.
Maybe I've not seen it. I don't think so.
There's a great scene with the fax machine that I just think is one of the most compelling things I've ever watched on cinema. I didn't even see it in cinema, but I was like, oh my God, it's really good. But it's that kind of, and it's it's character, it's story, it's writing, it's all of that. Now, the other thing is, I did promise that I would have finished writing Dark Splendor on the Beach by the beginning of June.
Unless you change the title, I don't know.
No, I've kept the title. I've got the whole story mapped out in my head.
Dark Splendor on the Beach, not the Green.
Oh, Dark Splendor on the Green. Green, yes.
Maybe you changed the title.
No, it was me. I don't know why I thought that. But I've got the whole thing mapped out in my head. I just haven't written it. I haven't done it.
Okay, so you have not written, but you have not progressed whatsoever since the last time we spoke about it.
I've written a paragraph.
Because I remember
I've written the opening paragraph.
Okay, you've written a couple of paragraphs. Good. I haven't progressed with any writing projects at all, by the way. Just
well, that's not true technically, is it?
Well, so okay, fiction writing projects. I have progress with writing nonfiction articles that are more about like what's happening in the media and publishing on LinkedIn. So that's good.
That's very good. Seeing as you've got the guy, and the Metallica post was incredibly well received, I thought.
Yes, it was. It was. Well, I was lucky that guy commented on it. It got, a lot of views. So keeping in people's minds, basically. And I've been going to a couple of networking events, and I had an interview out of that. It's not going any further, but still probably meet some other people.
It validates the process. I think
it does.
It validates our idea.
It does. Yeah, it does. So, and I went to an award ceremony for strategic planning awards last week in Paris, and I wrote one post commenting on the award winners, and I'm going to write 2 more.
Oh, you talked about the bronze, didn't you?
Yeah.
That was your...
Yeah, and I'm going to do one about silver and one about gold. So I'm going to do that.
That post about bronze, it felt quite industry specific, because I read it and I was like,
it's very industry specific.
I don't fully get everything that's going on here.
I wrote it, and I was hurrying to write it that day and to get out the door because I was meeting a friend for dinner, and I wanted to publish it. And I knew it was very industry specific, but I had tagged a bunch of people on there, and I was limited with the number of characters. I'm always limited with the number of characters in the post.
Yeah.
I hesitated for a hot second, going, should I explain what this is about? And then I was all screwed. It's for people in the industry, and that's it. Is there any, and I was like, is there any value sharing in English about this stuff that is very French? And I thought, well, maybe for some people who do what my work, and maybe it won't be very clear for anybody else, because I'm commenting from the cases that I wrote in, that I read, that are written in French. However, I thought it doesn't matter. Yeah, I'll just publish it.
Is the translation function on LinkedIn any good? I sent you the English translation of one of your articles. It works.
It works. And I've decided for now that I'm just writing in English. My point of difference, my point of interest is that I need people to know that I write and that I speak in French. But even just attending that evening with, they're basically all, well, peers and more than peers, because they're all established within the industry here in Paris. It was a very French crowd. Even though many of them know how to write in English, I would dare say that a lot of them don't write as well as I do in English, but I don't know for sure. But I think it's likely they write better in French than I do, though.
Yeah, of course.
All that to say that I really do think that my added value is that I've worked all around the world, and that I work in English, and that I can't be a better French writer than they are, and a better French, like Frenchness, French industry, French person, French, all that stuff. So I'm like, all right, I'll keep writing my thing in English, is where I'm getting with that, I guess.
Do you think you understand the cross-cultural interaction across the world better than a lot of people because of living in lots of different places? Yes.
No.
Certainly from a strategic point of view.
Certainly from a perception standpoint.
Yeah.
Now, whether it's actually true, hotly debatable. But what is true is I have experienced and worked in all those different countries. And I have worked on a lot of multi-market international business.
Yeah, you're not an international man of mystery anymore. You're a globalized citizen. You're a global citizen of the.
Yeah, and I still carry the image, world. And I'm not really. I mean, I've been living in this apartment for 4 years, but for some reason I still have the reputation. And if I just say who I am quickly, people are like, wow, you're super international. So I'm like, well, I'm not gonna, I might as well just keep using that. That is my main kind of point. And French companies who want to hire me because I have international background, because I know how to write in English really well, or better than my French, better than an equivalent person strategist who is French, fully French, and only worked in France. Or I think it seems like now I'm still a massive question as to, all right, well, how do I find these clients who are French, speak in French, but are interested in having somebody who has an international outlook on things? That's an ongoing question as to, like, what are the best efforts, what makes the most difference to being known, to finding the right kind of clients, to being in touch with businesses who might be likely to hire me rather than agencies. Who it's still useful to be known by the agencies because you never know when they might need some freelance help. And at the same time, interacting on LinkedIn with people who are my peers is not super useful because they're not going to hire me. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then,
so anyway, that's an ongoing question, but it seems like regularly posting on LinkedIn is working. And now I have a lot of work to do on my website. I've started posting some of the latest stuff I wrote on LinkedIn. I still don't know to this day, and I'm starting to do it as writing to the number of maximum characters in a LinkedIn post, and it's very easy to reach. It's 3,000 is super easy to reach. But then it leads to things like, well, I don't know, what did you think of that post? Was that worth reading, or were you like, well, this is not meant for me? Which it wasn't really. But
I couldn't quite connect with it. The Metallica one, obviously, and the Tim Urban one, the reading one, yes. But maybe it's a rhythm of you do one super specific industry one and then you do like a couple of bigger ones, generic ones or something. I don't know. But I don't know if you noticed, but I posted every day on LinkedIn for the past 3 weeks.
No, but I think I commented on something. I think you deleted
you did
comments. Did you delete my comment? I couldn't see it anymore, so I was wondering if.
Did you comment? I thought you liked. I know you liked one of hers. Didn't notice the comment.
Or maybe it didn't load. Maybe I might have been doing.
I don't remember. No, I noticed you liked one of them. I don't. If it was a comment, I would have replied, unless I didn't reply. Anyway, but I'm writing all teaching based stuff, and it's really interesting noticing. I've got almost a month's worth of posts. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting noticing from an impressionist point of view and comments point of view, which I can almost get to the stage where I can see which topics are generating the most interest and which ones are not. It's very, very interesting. So I'm going to get to the end of the month and then see, well, am I going to continue for another month? Because I'm not finding it hard to write stuff.
I'm finding it depends. It really depends. But I want to start going onto my website, maybe going to a newsletter, but also just time flies. So the fact that I'm just writing anything at all is already good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I did want to ask a bigger question, which is some of what we've talked about. I mean, we always talk about creative stuff. We always talk about like stories and whatever we're reading and all that kind of stuff. But there's I think a thread for both of us about where are we going career-wise? What are we doing? What are the plans? All that kind of stuff. Is this? I know it's good. I think it's great that you're writing. I think you've got so much to offer, like so in terms of ideas and whatever. But is strategic planning still your thing? Is that because it was
publicly and for now? Yes, absolutely.
Okay, because I know there was because you were experimenting with like hot sauce and.
No, so these were
making
the point of the conversation with not like little to nobody's ever going to watch this, so that's fine. But it's not something I really want to talk about publicly.
Okay.
That said, what I can say is I'm interested in looking at writing a business plan.
Ooh, cool.
At least one. So I've been starting to. Well, it's half procrastinating from what I feel I should do on a day-to-day. But at the same time, I just happened to have an interview recently that I mentioned to you, I think. Did I mention that to you?
I know you had an interview. And is that the one that came out of LinkedIn or a different one?
Yeah, that's the one that came out of LinkedIn.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah.
So it's not going any further. But it was an interesting interview. I was supposed to have a second one, and then they canceled this week, sending me an email saying that actually they looked internally and thought that which was honestly one of the points that I was wondering about, that they couldn't offer me any career progression opportunities that would be worthy of my experience, and probably not the salary levels either.
And was this a full-time or
full-time? It was a full-time.
It was a full-time job. It was actual job. Wow. Whoa.
Yeah. But honestly, I went into it with exactly those kinds of suspicions in terms of the money, the role, and I felt like I was
overqualified.
Yeah, massively overqualified. I mean, massively, I'm saying that might be pretentious, but overqualified for sure for the level of the role that was advertised. And I think they possibly, I want to check some stuff about salary levels, but possibly also underestimated where I'm at. And I also reworked some of my CV, and I have multiple versions of my CV now, because I was also like, maybe they didn't see that in my CV. So
it must have been great experience to have
it was a good experience.
an interview like
it was
that.
a really good experience
so
to have
useful.
the interview. And I walked in. It was a really good experience to have an interview. It was very flattering to be sought after, because it's been a while. And I've spent a lot of time when you're working on your own. A lot of freelance have the same kind of thoughts, and just anybody professionally, that if you don't have a lot of feedback, and I've been doing a lot of work by myself and on my own, that you just start wondering, am I bad at what I do? Why am I not getting more opportunities work-wise? I feel I don't have enough. Now, there is a lot of this seems to be down to where I am
in the world, in Paris.
In Paris, while not being within the French system. And when I went to that award networking evening, I could see how I'm not into that. I was attending and everybody knew one another, right?
Yeah.
It was a very small world of all the award book that I have. The people organizing the award, judging the award, writing the award entries are all the same people. It's a very close, tight-knit little club. Yeah. And I'm not part of it.
Yeah.
Only insofar as I say that I am, but I'm an odd one out, because I didn't know anybody. So I went to see and speak to some people, but I've been trying to get into that for years now. Failing, partly down to COVID, partly down to, I don't know what, not having the right school. When I do meet people, people are like, wow, you have really valuable experience. It's awesome. I'm like, great. Are there any? But I'm also being able to talk to people about what's going on and confirming that it's a bit rough. There's not a lot of jobs at the moment. It's difficult for everybody, which was both really nice to chat with people who are in my line of work and felt great. And also, every time I have those opportunities, it's like, all right, I'm doing the right thing. I need to be known by more of these people in case something comes up and they can call me.
Yeah.
And at the same time, still put my attention towards finding my own clients, because I'm senior enough now that I should keep developing my own thing as a consultant. And at the same time, I moved so much and didn't stay all that long within good roles with big titles and good companies, that I didn't develop a really strong network of possible clients and working together. But when I do work with clients, they really like what I do. They call me back. So that's not where the problem is. It's just to keep building my own profile in the absence of a strong foundation, other than, oh, Willem's an international. Where is he living now? I don't know where he is. And he's a nice guy, or something like that. He seems smart enough, posts smart stuff. But a lot of the people who would say that have not actually worked with me. They know me from events. They know me from whatever.
It's a really interesting.
I'm just riffing. I'm kind of like, I don't even know where I started with this. I kind of
it was the interview. It was job versus freelancing.
The interview, and so the job versus freelancing and doing my own thing is I like the idea of a full-time job for the security of having a paycheck coming in that would be very comfortable after several years of feeling like it's been rough and struggling since COVID. And sometimes I wonder, that was the other thought I had earlier when I was talking about where I am place-wise. Money-wise, maybe I shouldn't have left the US. I had a lot of work coming in. I was getting known, and I had started to have a client network in Chicago. But then again, I also know that I've made the right choice, because had I stayed over there, I would have lived through the whole COVID years, like really isolated, far from my family and everything.
Yeah.
So
it's
a give and take. I don't know, now, and then to keep doing things by myself, I've been doing it for so long that I feel it would be weird to go back into a business as a full-time employee. And if I think about it, I think the flexibility and independence that I have and have had for the last few years is super important to me, and I would have a hard time giving it up. But then again, you never know. If it's for the right job, it could be super interesting. Like that job was with a consulting firm who wanted to rehaul all their marketing. I walked
Wow.
into the interview and the marketing director gave me a test with a bunch of PowerPoints to comment on.
Wow.
And I had an hour. I was like, all right, cool, I'll just do this. And then talked for, it lasted for over 3 hours. But the half of it was that test, and the other half was commenting, discussing, talking about the role. On one end, I don't really have a massive interest in consulting. On another end, if you give me a problem to solve, it gets exciting.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of problems to solve, from they do complex things, how can they better communicate what it is they do? And a big rehaul of all their presentations.
Wow. That's a great task to
It
get
is.
in. It's because it's
And
real.
she wants
it's
something,
real.
and that marketing director wants a right arm, is looking for a partner to do all this.
Yeah.
And wants somebody who's autonomous, experienced, a strategic thinker, because they would have to deal with department heads within the company that are seasoned and experienced consultants. So they need to be the person that takes on
They
this
need
job
someone who
needs to
can
be,
handle that kind of
exactly, needs to be handling that kind
person.
of level.
Yeah, that's
However,
not
so
as
I understood
difficult.
why they were after somebody who has a strategic profile like mine. However, I really have a lot of experience, not exactly like that. But I was like, well, from a title perspective, my last 3 full-time titles had director in it, and I had a team management, so that would be managing a small team in marketing that is growing. But I didn't say that, but it seemed pretty obvious, where I was like, well, what's my progression? It's like basically taking the job of the person interviewing me, knowing that this business is not going to grow a lot from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah.
Or, and which is something I said, I was hoping to be able to have the conversation, but I said it by email instead, when they sent me an email canceling the subsequent interview, to say, well, I get that you're looking for a full-time role, but what you described to me sounds like something that is limited and fixed in time to rehaul all your presentations. And that sounds like something that could be done as a contract, as a mission.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that I could assist into training the right kind of person. But also, you just, the ad they were looking for seemed to be aiming for somebody that had at least 7 years experience, which seems fine, but I have 20.
And they went internally in the end.
I don't know. What do you mean?
They promoted someone internally.
Oh, no,
for the job.
No.
You don't know. Oh, okay.
No.
I thought you said they did.
No. They said they probably wouldn't be able to offer. They talked about, at the end of the conversation, we talked salary, and left it very wide. I didn't answer specifically, but also positioned myself and asked about like progression a little bit. I wasn't very, very clear on that one.
Which is why you went back and reworked your CV to make it clear your experience and how many senior positions you've had and everything you've achieved and all that kind of stuff. I see. That makes sense.
Yeah. Actually, I'd be interested in getting your point of view. So I have one CV that I had redone last year that is more consulting. And then 2 more that I changed slightly, one more for in-house, like client-side positions like this one, and one more for agency. But I go in and out of, basically I had my CV that I redid last year had gobbled all my last few full-time jobs into a whole series of like saying I've been consulting as a freelancer since 2014, but I've had 2 full-time jobs that lasted about a year in between that started as contracts and moved to full-time jobs.
Okay.
So I was hesitating between, okay, should I say that I've had this position for a year, or should I just leave it and say I've been a consultant for this whole time? So I changed it so it's clear now that I've had 2 director roles,
Full-time, 2 full-time roles.
Yeah, 3.
And that happens, like, contractors become full-time as they get part of the company or understand the company or whatever the context is. I had to redo my CV as part of my master's application.
Oh, yeah.
And that was interesting because I was like, how do I do this? It took me ages. I did it though. I can't remember exactly what I went with, but it was interesting reflecting on the things that I've done within the school that I've been at for so long.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of teachers expect just to progress by virtue of being in one place. I think there's less accountability is not the right word. There's less of a what results have you produced? And by results, I don't mean exam results. I mean, what have you actually done that's had an effect on the organization that you're part of? That's what I mean by results.
Yeah.
There's less of that. You kind of don't really have to do that as a teacher. That kind of justification of your own value in existence I don't think it happens.
Yeah.
And I think it's a shame. And I think teachers don't have that ability to communicate what they've done and how good they are. They just seem to be terrible at it. But I could be wrong.
Everybody generally is.
Do you think?
Well, that's where I learn, and sometimes I'm quick to disparage what I do in terms of work, and then realize that there's a lot of people that don't know how to communicate what they do. And generally speaking, nobody does, unless you're.
That's interesting. I never thought of that. Maybe because I'm so stuck in teaching, but
yeah. It's a skill. It's a thing that you learn. I mean, I'm bad at it myself, and it's always more difficult to do for yourself than it is to tell others how they should be doing it.
Well, yeah. It's So I've I sent my master's application, and they emailed me last week saying, "We need the transcript from your degree." And I was like, "What?" So they want my yearly results from my degree that I started in 1995. Have I got this? So this week and again, I feel quite embarrassed saying this. I've got a list of what's in all the boxes that we've got in our loft.
Wow.
So I went to the box, as they were numbered. So I went to the box and looked in it, and it wasn't there. And I was like, okay. Then I ended up checking all the boxes yesterday.
It must have taken a while, no?
It didn't take that long. It took like 20 minutes.
Oh, wow. That's super fast. Okay.
Yeah, because I have everything labeled. I know all the boxes and everything in the loft. So it turns out I underestimated myself, because I have a folder that has all my certificates from all my exam results when I was 16, including my degree certificate, and filed very carefully behind my degree certificate was my annual results from the 3 years of my degree. It was there, accessible in my filing cabinet the whole time. And I didn't need to go into my loft to find it.
Wow. And do you have good results?
I got a 2-1 in my degree.
Okay, that's good, right?
Yeah, and I was really worried that I wouldn't be able to find those individual yearly transcripts, because it's 20 years old, or 25 years old, or whatever.
I'm impressed. I'm not sure I have those kinds of things.
I was embarrassed, because I was like, they're asking me for these transcripts for the application for the masters. I don't know if I've got this. I was so happy that I had it. It's just I didn't even need to go in the loft. It was right there. But and I got looking back again, all the memories come flooding back of like, oh yeah, being at uni, looking at going what they did. I don't know, like, it's just kind of weird. At the end of year results, what they would do is they would publish everybody's results by name with what grade they got on a pin board. So to find out whether you passed the year, you had to go and look at this board, find your name, and see whether you passed. So you could see everybody else's results. I thought it was really kind of weird. It's not like getting my A-level results or my GCSE results where you get an envelope and you have it, it's your moment. No, it was like everyone's results are up. I thought that was kind of weird. But it reminded me about university, being younger, and how much I enjoyed that experience. Of course, when you get things out from the loft, you go down a bit of a rabbit hole, because I found my old school reports. And I was like, looking for my school reports as well. Like, oh dear. But I'm really glad I've got all that stuff. And I'm really, really glad I was able to find that information. So fingers crossed, I'm going to hear, yes, we've accepted you for your master's.
And that's in data science. That's the one?
Well, they called it business analytics.
Okay.
But it's basically data science. I'm going to be learning Python, R, SQL.
Well,
hopefully doing some interesting stuff, but we'll see.
Okay. Actually, I'm circling back to a previous thing you said, just out of curiosity, about my LinkedIn posts on the awards. What did you think was missing? Anything for you? Because I'm wondering, should I do something different for the next one I'm going to write about? Or are you a bit of an anomaly because the vast majority of the people that are my contacts on LinkedIn are people who work in marketing and communication. And even if they don't know about this specific award, it would probably make more sense to them. But I could be wrong. So maybe I should add more context to explain what it is or something else. I don't know.
I think
What do you think?
I think I'm an anomaly.
Yeah.
I do. And
it's just like I have a few others that are friends and contacts on LinkedIn, but the vast majority either work in advertising or marketing. So even if they don't know this specific award or don't know strategic planning that well, it would still sort of make sense to them. Now, whether this is a super interesting post or not is arguable, because if you haven't read I think it is still, I mean, I was wondering after having posted it whether it made any kind of sense, unless you are tagged on the post and I said, well, you did a good job with your award. But then I'm like, well, so be it. Maybe it's just only for the people who are tagged on it. Doesn't matter.
No, I think I'm an anomaly. It was a bit, for me, I felt like I was being dropped in something where I was like, well, okay, I don't get the context of this. Is there a link to the ads? And then I realized, hang on, they're all going to be in French, so it wouldn't make sense to me. So
actually, it wouldn't. But doesn't necessarily, like most ads, transcend language.
That's true.
But it wouldn't necessarily make sense because the case study I was writing is about the strategy that led to the ad, but I linked to the ad anyway because that's the only thing that I could share for context.
I didn't click the link.
It doesn't matter. Most people don't click links anyway. You read it. You're one of the rare people who have.
Yeah, that's true. Are you like gonna link to your website stuff in your posts? Do you link to your website stuff in your posts?
Not yet. And the last few posts, because, well, partly I've not really taken care of my website, but I've started looking at it and I've started updating and copying and posting links from LinkedIn posts to my website. But these days, instead of posting on my website first and then to LinkedIn, I'm posting on LinkedIn and then posting on my website, but my website is out of date. And I saw somebody who was the person who actually tagged on Metallica, but he's been like super consistent with his website for the past 15 years. He posts one lines and then links to his website on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So he doesn't post the whole thing on LinkedIn. He just uses it as a dispatch, which is how you would use it in the past. And so I might go back to doing that. I don't know yet. I'm not sure what I'm doing.
It's interesting, the algorithm of LinkedIn, and it's interesting the posts. Noticing my own, what draws my attention. There's definitely been a shift. I will quite happily read long form blog posts on my phone, but LinkedIn and any social network feels like I'm jumping into a river, swimming about for a bit, and then getting out and doing other stuff. So I'm not really necessarily interested in jumping into a river and staying there. That's kind of
why I might go back to doing and I've been looking at it, but slowly, to update properly my website and to write more in it and to possibly do a newsletter. But I've talked to a friend and I'm looking at maybe hiring somebody on the tech side who could clean up all my website so that it runs better.
Well, that makes sense.
But it's also the give and take that I need to get more money in, and right now things are not looking good from the project, from the client perspective, which is not great and stressing me out. So, yeah.
I think it's the nature of freelancing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and I guess also the nature of me being a little bit lazy. I haven't been. I went to this friend's party barbecue, and we ended up sharing an Uber back, and I was chatting to the driver, and I haven't used an Uber in a while, but the guy was explaining to me that he has a full-time job and does this on the sides in the weekends and evenings to make more money to be able to buy a property. And I'm like, wow, I don't do that. It's not that I don't put in hours. But even I had that conversation with my partner last week, and she's like, well, would you be, if you need to make more money, would you be ready to do something else or keep focusing on what you do. And I'm like, well, I know that I'm a bit of a broken record complaining about when I need new clients and projects and kind of stressing out about it. And at the same time, it works best for me. It seems like it works best for me from a both revenue and time management perspective to spend my time going to events, writing, promoting myself, because when I do land projects, it makes me a lot more money than if I was waiting tables or something.
Uber driving.
Or Uber driving.
Yeah.
Both and or teaching more.
Yeah.
At the level that I teach makes a lot more money than I would, or taking surveys or I don't know what,
It's that perennial, like, how do I use my time?
And at the same time, I'm definitely like lazier than this guy that I met that was driving his Uber at night, between the time he left work and the time he goes back home.
Oh man, I do want to. I think we're going to need to wrap up, partly because
we're going to wrap up.
Ooh, you need to go.
We go.
Yeah.
So a thing that I've been putting off for several weeks and several calls is the new roller coaster at Parc Astérix, the French
jealousy. You're going to how many theme parks?
I'm going tomorrow, and I'm going to try this brand new roller coaster called TOTK that is the second of its kind worldwide, and everybody, all the theme park enthusiasts I know are saying that is like the most amazing roller coaster. I'm super excited to go test it tomorrow.
And this is at the Asterix theme park.
It's at the Asterix theme park, and they have this brand new roller coaster that is a second of its kind, unique. But there's one similar one that just opened in the US, and this is the one in France. And it's a roller coaster
in Europe,
for sure in Europe. Yeah, it's a multi-launch roller coaster, but with a switchback. So it goes. So it's a circuit.
Yeah,
but the circuit. So there's multiple figures, but it launches you quite fast. Then there's a big like loop that you go up, but it doesn't have enough energy to go over the loop, so you come back, and then there's a switch that the track changes. You come back vertically, and then you're super high like this, and then you go back forwards, and then it accelerates you again. Then you go over the loop, and there's a bunch of other figures, and then you finish the circuit. It looks amazing.
And you're going to 3 theme parks in...
Yeah, technically, because I still have my annual pass for Disneyland. I wanted to go last week, but I didn't manage to get a reservation. I was busy doing other things. So I booked to go on Wednesday because my annual pass expires early August, and I'd still like to go a few times. And specifically this time I'm going, one, because the Disneyland Paris park employees are striking. So I kind of want to go support them. 2, It's a Small World had been in works for over a year and a half, so I haven't done it. So I want to go do It's a Small World. I'm not really going for coasters. I'm going to go work in the morning and maybe wander around the park, do It's a Small World, and possibly that's it. And then I fly to the US, to Cleveland, Ohio, to meet my girlfriend's family. And on Sunday, we're all going to Cedar Point, which is for a long time one of the biggest theme parks in the US and in the world. And they had the record of the number of roller coasters in park for a long time. I don't think they have it anymore, but there was like 18 big roller coasters. Wow. And it's on the shores of Lake Erie in Sandusky, Ohio. And I've been wanting to go to that park for a very long time, so I'm excited.
Wow.
Fun fact, my girlfriend as a kid featured on brochures and communications of that theme park.
Ha!
And she showed me photos of the old brochures that she was like, she was the kid in the fake family enjoying a day out. One of the 2 kids.
Wow. Wow. I'm kind of jealous and speechless all at once.
Yeah. And so we're going a few days to Cleveland, or just outside Cleveland, then a few days renting a house right by the Lake Erie in a more of a holiday place called Port Clinton. And then I have friends in Detroit who are coming to pick us up, and we're spending a few days with them in Detroit. Should be cool. I don't know if you talked to them, maybe my friends Bill and Barton at my 40th birthday. A couple of American guys.
No, maybe.
There's a lot of people.
There was so many people I spoke to at your 40th. It was ridiculous. That was such a great party. And you say you're not an international man of mystery. Okay.
Well, not as much as when I'm looking at, I was traveling in Asia, and that was over 10 years ago.
Wow. Yeah. Time flies.
Yeah, it does. And I was in the US, and I moved back like almost 4 years ago. Actually, near like the end of this month, it'll be, well, a little bit, almost 4 years.
And when did we, so hang on. Yeah, this is interesting because when did we do our first recorded conversation that led to this whole
Probably
adventure?
3 years ago.
Wow. Really?
Was it 2020
Was it that
or
long
2021?
ago?
It was 2020 because the first one was for one of the school projects of your students,
Yeah, it was.
pupils.
It was.
And that was during the lockdowns in 2020.
I don't know if it was during the lockdowns?
Or was it later? Maybe 2021.
I think it
sure
might
anymore.
It was a long time ago. We did 3 seasons of Teaching Tangents.
We did.
Yeah. Wow. The roller coaster continues. So that's going to be our next. No, so we're not going to speak for a while, right?
Yes, we're not. No, we're not.
I want to hear all about roller coasters, literal and metaphorical.
Yes, I'll tell you all about
it. And hopefully by then, well, I'm going to continue posting daily on LinkedIn for sure.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm going to keep posting like 2-3 times a week.
Cool. And I think I will also have written 5 paragraphs. I'm going to say that Dark Splendor on the green.
I'm looking at maybe doing a writing workshop the first weekend of July. And getting back to, because I talked about it with somebody at the writing party yesterday, and one person is a writing coach and he runs workshops and stuff. And I was like, I should be writing, but he's like, well, what are your projects, objectives? I'm like, well, I'm quick at berating myself, but I don't really have any. So finishing my short story, I was like, well, I'd like to finish the short story I started to complete something, really. Because it's true. It's like, well, I'm not really working on very active projects. He's like, well, then if you're not,
if you don't have anything active, or we don't have a kind of deadline, who's going to do anything?
Exactly.
But it has to be a real deadline. It can't be like, I have to have something at stake, otherwise I'm not going to do it.
Yep.
Like something big.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm just writing up what we're going to do. Roller coasters, basically.
Yeah,
cool.
Pretty much.
Thank you as ever.
All right, thank you.
And yeah, enjoy the roller coaster.